Everybody, it's official. We are so back. No, I'm not talking about the GTA real estate market. I'm talking about me specifically. I'm back on the channel. Happy to be doing this video for you. My first one since May. I'm going to catch you up to date with what has been happening in the market over the last few months. I'm going to jump into something that is brand new that we've never seen before in real estate, which that's really saying something considering everything we've gone through in the last 3 years, the crazy run up in prices followed by the crashes, everything I've been talking about on this channel until about this May. Thank you for tuning back into the channel. Let's do this more regularly. I miss you guys. Hope you miss me too. Let's get right into the content today. Okay, so as I alluded to the last time that I spoke to you, I think it was like back in May, active inventory was around right here. So actually, active listings has come down to 301 as my last reading. That's my Monday months of inventory. Don't forget, I always share those over on X. So you can tune in there to see what's been going on. Go back through the archives. Anyways, we peaked out back in around June, and that was right up around 34,000 active listings. So you can see that we had our come down through the summer, bit of that fall peak, and then back down to now where we're at around that 27,000 mark. This is a completely normal pattern for what we're used to seeing. Last year was a little odd because we actually saw a fall peak in inventory. We usually see the most inventory happen in that May-June stretch, another little bump in October, maybe September, maybe November, before it all falls off, as we saw last year into the new year. So good news is that nothing really abnormal has happened since I've been gone, other than just a kind of big inventory glut at one point in time where, like I said, there was about 34,000 active listings across the GTA. The 30-day rate of sales or sales activity has been a funny story in and of itself. This goes back all the way again to January of 2020. And you can see here that sales activity peaked last year in April, May, as it usually does in the spring market. And then we saw a big drop off and a lull through the summertime, followed by a big spike. And that was that hot fall market that we saw last year. People were talking about how year over year sales were way up. It might have signaled kind of the resurgence of the GTA real estate market. But as you remember, the spring run up was a little bit lackluster compared to what we saw in 2024. It was a little bit more of a gradual run up, not that big jump that we saw last February, March. This one took a little bit longer to build to a head. Fell short of where we were at last year in 2024, but we didn't see as big of a plummet through the summer. And I want to visualize this chart in a different way for you. This looks at 2024 versus 2025, kind of the percent change in the 30-day rate of sales. So you can see, weeks 1 through 27, 28, let's call it, we're falling short on reported sales this year compared to last. It wasn't really until the summertime, this is around July, that we peaked in August, where sales activity was outpacing last year, but that was through the quieter summer months. You can see now that the fall market has really fallen short of where we're at in 2024 as well. As of this most recent reading, we are shy, about 7% shy of the pace that we set last year at this time. Just to show you that we had that massive run up last year. In 2025, we are actually down about 30% in terms of the reported sales year over year. One more little note on sales activity, just to give you an idea of what's happened this fall. This is reported sales on a weekly basis across the GTA. September 1st to 7th is muted because of the Labor Day long weekend. October 13th to 19th is muted because of Thanksgiving. So it's kind of one less reporting day. But you can see that sales for the fall, the busiest week was that October 6th to, and if you throw out the Thanksgiving week here, which is that anomaly, it's been a steady downtrend, and I'd expect to see this continue to slow down from now right through the rest of the year. Now, I alluded to at the beginning of the video something that we haven't seen in GTA real estate. We're going to get into that very quickly. But right now, I want to zoom out. I just showed you the kind of weekly sales totals from the first week of September through until now. We're going to go all the way back to 2006 in this next little segment and look at total reported sales across the GTA. We'll break it down by Toronto and then kind of the suburbs as well. Just to highlight again, this something that we've just never seen before in GTA real estate. All right, here's chart 1. You can see it's annual reported sales per Toronto MLS. So 2025, this is as of November 19th, this number. So we're just shy, or maybe just over 56,000 reported sales right across the GTA. The previous slowest year was 2023. That was at 66,500 or so sales that happened there. There's a bit of an uptick in 2024. And if you were hoping that 2025 would be the year when we kind of continued to see this volume uptick, I'm sorry, that is just not the case. Let's break this down by Toronto and the suburbs being Halton, Peel, York, and Durham regions. Here's the 416. It's a similar trend, just shy of 28,000 sales reported through November 19th of this year. And here's a look at the 905, just shy of 34,500 sales through November 19th. And again, 2023, 2024, I don't see us reaching those levels of sales numbers in 2025. So safe to say that 2025 will be the slowest year on record as per Toronto MLS for reported sales activity across the GTA. Now, I'm slowly building towards this revelation of the first time this certain occurrence has happened in GTA history. I know I'm being very cryptic right now, but we're going to get there, I promise. Let's jump into this next chart, which is kind of the next stepping stone on the way to where I'm finally going. And that is GTA annual reported leases as per the Toronto MLS. So while reported sales activity has been very suppressed, the slowest that we have seen, take a look at this progression of reported leases on Toronto MLS. This is right across the GTA from 2006, where we saw just shy of 13,000 leases reported, all the way to 2025, where already, like I said, through November 19th, we're at 103,000 reported leases across the GTA. Now, there's a number of factors for this big drastic jump. Like the sales reporting from 06 to 2025, like 2025 has less sales reported than 2006. But on the lease side, some of this probably has to do with the fact that leases were not necessarily posted on the MLS as much in the past. I think it's becoming more and more prevalent of a practice these days. Again, investors purchasing properties to rent out specifically, or maybe people that were going to try and flip them prior to taking occupancy or having to put them on the rental market. So it's flooding the market with more rental opportunities. More rental opportunities mean more lease transactions happening as well. So there's probably some reasoning for why we are seeing more lease transactions right now. Again, affordability plays a big part. If you're looking at house A for purchase versus house A for rent, I can say you're going to be paying less rent at this point in time to live in the same house as if you were to purchase it. And that has to do with upfront costs, like capital in for your down payment. Commissions are higher when you're purchasing, whereas renting is first and last month's rent, and then the monthly rent going forward. So that monthly rent total is lower than the mortgage total, but the money that you have to put in is also much lower, therefore much more affordable in these times. Lots of future potential home buyers are probably biding their time still, waiting for the right opportunity to get into the market, and they are renting in the short term. And even if you don't fall into that camp and you're just renting because it makes more sense financially, like all the power to you. I think that's a great decision at this point in time. Now, when we combine our sales totals, which is the blue bars, and we stack the lease totals on top, you can see how things have swung. I'd say 2019, 2020, 2021 are the first times that you're seeing maybe a 50-50 split. 2022 onwards, leases have dominated the total transactions in GTA real estate. You can see again through November 19th, we're already at 159,000 total transactions. So I could definitely see this eclipsing your 2020, maybe your 2024 totals, maybe even creep up on 2016. I still think 2021, it's going to be maybe forever before we ever eclipse that total number of transactions on the Toronto MLS. But we are slowly, at this point in time already, it is the 5th busiest year in GTA real estate from a transactions perspective. Slowly getting there. Let's take a look at sales versus lease transactions in the 416. And you can see that really ever since 2018, leases, mostly because of the bigger condo market in the 416, have dominated Toronto MLS in the last few years. And my next chart's going to just kind of show that example. But you can see that it was in 2018 that leases overtook sales in the 416. And here's total leases as a percentage of total sales. So here's 2018 where it was leases represented 104% of total sales. So really for every sale that was happening, one lease was occurring. Now it's more so like for every one sale that's occurring, 3 leases are occurring. You're up to almost 280% for total leases as a percentage of total reported sales across the Toronto MLS. Now I've finally gotten there. This is the big teaser that I've been making all video. And if you can see it already, good for you. But right now we're going to look at the 905, a similar exercise. And you can see that even leases in the 905 made up a much smaller portion of transactions across the 905. 2021, huge year for sales. Leases, though, they increased every year since then. 2016, same thing. It seems like leases have been on a steady upswing in the 905. But in 2025, for the first time that we've seen, and again, this is only through 19 days of November. It could change, I guess, by the end of the year, but I can expect to see this trend continue. 2025 will be the first time that there have been more leases reported on the Toronto MLS than reported sales. And here's a look at that same exercise. First time that we are up over 100%. Last year was hovering around that 90% mark in 2024. But right now, 122.75% of leases as a percentage of total sales. So really, it's just more than one lease for every one sale that is happening. For every 100 sales, there's 122 leases happening in the 905. So I think this is interesting because we've had this big discussion as, is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? So if you're talking resale, I definitely think we are trending more towards buyer's markets. Again, stay up to date with what is happening with months of inventory, that great indicator for where we are at in terms of being a buyer's, balanced, or seller's market. I don't really think it's either. I think right now it's a renter's market. Leases are dominating the Toronto MLS. People are either saying, forget about trying to purchase a home altogether, I'm just going to rent, or they're still biding their time until prices do come down a little more. We're going to look at sale prices and lease prices really quickly going back to 2010 in just a second here. It's really a renter's market in the GTA. Renter's market first, then it's a buyer's market. And, maybe some pockets are seller's market still, but that's very, very few and far between. To wrap up, here is the median sale price across the entire GTA. This is Toronto and the suburbs. The median sale price is right about back in line with where we were in 2021. It's just a little bit lower. I believe this number was like 950 and this number here is 930. Still well above we were at in 2020, but definitely down off of the peak. And in my opinion, just based on bid-ask spreads, what buyers are offering for what sellers are listing at, I think we have some room for this number to come down still. And then on the lease side, this is median lease prices right across. And again, I think it's important to look at this in separate markets, but for the sake of this video and keeping a little shorter with my long-winded self here, just looking at the aggregate of everything, rental prices peaked in 2023 and have been coming down ever since. We were kind of back in line with where we were in 2022, still well up from 2019 when we saw that spike, fell through the pandemic. So again, rents are still trending down, even though we are seeing kind of volume and total leases reported coming back to the market. So it's something to keep an eye on. Recaps from this video: for the first time in history that I could tell, at least in the 905, leases are outpacing reported sales. It's been a trend since about 2018 in the 416, and we've just seen leases as a share of total market share just really taking off. Like I said, it's about 3 leases for every 1 sale that we're seeing in the 416 right now. And in spite of this all, prices are still coming down on the resale side and the rental side. Now, because it's been so long, just to reintroduce myself, I am Rob Marsiglio from Valerie Real Estate. That's Canada's first ever AI-powered brokerage. Reach out to me if you have any questions about the brokerage, about the services that we offer to you. If you have any ideas for videos that I can do going forward, getting right back into this thing. I want to provide value to you, dive into the numbers on a weekly basis. So let me know what you want to see in the comments below and tell me what color shirt you are wearing as you watch this video. Thanks so much for sticking with me right through to the end of this one. Till we speak again next time, please stay safe and cheers.